Oh, you them first. Yeah. Just him. Oh, okay. Then you go, then us. Okay. Should we go up there?
Ladies and gentlemen of the Mohawk Valley, I come bearing news from the city of Philadelphia. In Congress, July 4th, 1776, the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to effect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, invices a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, nay, it is their duty, to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. He has refused his assent to laws the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained, and when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people, unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasions on the rights of the people. He has refused for a long time after such dissolutions, to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers, incapable of annihilation, have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining, in the meantime, exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, for that purpose obstructing the laws for naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the condition of new appropriations of lands. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers. He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount and payment of their salaries. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. He has kept among us, in times of peace, standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. He has effected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation, for quartering large bodies of soldiers and armed troops among us, by protecting them with a mock trial from punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us, in many cases, of the benefits of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond the seas to be tried for pretended offenses, for abolishing the system of free English laws in a neighboring province, thereby establishing an arbitrary government and enlarging its boundaries as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies, for taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally our forms of government, for suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with the power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy, scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages and totally unworthy the head of a civilized nation. He has constrained our fellow citizens taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their own hands. He has excited domestic insurrections among us and has endeavored to bring the inhabitants of our frontiers, the merciless Indian savages whose rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which might define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. Nor have we been wanting in attention to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our emigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They, too, have been deaf to the voice of justice and consanguinity. We must therefore acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation and hold them, as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, but in peace, friends. We, therefore, the representatives of these United States of America, in General Congress, assembled, appealing to the supreme judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and by the authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that the United Colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain ought to be totally dissolved, and that as a free and independent state they have power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and do all other things and acts which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of the divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Signed here within Georgia, Button Gwinnett, Lyman Hall, George Walton. North Carolina, William Hopper, Joseph Hughes, John Penn. South Carolina, Edward Rutledge, Thomas Haywood Jr., Thomas Lynch Jr., Arthur Middleton. Massachusetts, Mr. John Hancock. Maryland, Samuel Chase, William Packer, Thomas Stone, Charles Carroll of Carrollton. Virginia, George Wythe, Mr. Richard Henry Lee, Mr. Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Harrison, Thomas Nelson Jr., Francis Lightfoot Lee, Carter Braxton. From Pennsylvania, Robert Morris, Benjamin Rush, Dr. Benjamin Franklin, John Morton, George Clymer, James Smith, George Taylor, Dr. James Wilson, George Ross. Delaware, Caesar Rodney, George Reed, Thomas McKean. New York, William Floyd, Philip Livingston, Francis Lewis, and Lewis Morris. New Jersey, Richard Stockton, John Witherspoon, Francis Hopkinson, John Hart, and Abraham Clark. New Hampshire, Josiah Bartlett, William Whipple. Massachusetts, Samuel Adams, Mr. John Adams, Robert Treat Payne, Elbridge Gerry. Rhode Island, Stephen Hopkins, William Ellery. Connecticut, Roger Sherman, Samuel Huntington, William Williams, Oliver Walcott. And finally, New Hampshire, Mr. Matthew Thornton. Thank you.
Good afternoon, my friends. My name is Johan. I farm along the Mohawk Valley as my father did before me. These are unsettled times. You can feel it everywhere you go, at church, at the mill, standing outside the tavern. Folks lower their voices when certain people walk by. Neighbors who once shared a fence now argue about the king and Congress. Some say we should remain loyal to the crown. Others say those days are past. As for me, I have made up my mind. I am a farmer. I measure life in seasons. A man plants in the spring and hopes for a harvest in the fall. Some years are good, others are not. But you learn that nothing worth having comes without risk. That is how I have come to think about this question as well. I have listened to General Herkimer. I have heard the arguments. I've heard the warnings too. They tell us that if we choose independence, we may bring trouble upon this valley. And that may be true. Our valley is divided. Some of our neighbors support Congress, others remain loyal to the crown. General Herkimer urges one course, Sir John Johnson another. Good men stand on both sides of this question. But there comes a time when a man must decide where he stands. The men making decisions for us sit 3,000 miles away. They don't know our farms. They don't know our roads. They don't know what it takes to clear a field, survive a winter, or raise a family here in the valley. I believe we should have a voice in our own affairs. I know the road ahead won't be easy. We may be asking to give our time, our labor, perhaps even our very lives. Yet, there are moments when doing nothing is also a choice. I love this valley. I love this land. And if liberty has a chance to take root here, then I believe it is worth defending. I pray we are making the right choice. It is a choice that must be made. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Marta, and I am John's wife. You just heard him speak of liberty. It makes me think of home. Before the sun rises, I am already awake. On the farm, there is always work waiting. Bread to bake, water to carry, children to tend for. By the end of the day, there are meals to prepare and clothes to mend. The work never truly ends. Most women in the Mohawk Valley live much the same way. There are no days off on the farm. The seasons decide what must be done, and the work waits for no one. My parents were among the Palatine German families who settled this valley. They worked hard to build a home here, just as many of our neighbors did. When I look around, I see their labor everywhere. That is why these times concern me. Lately, life has become more difficult in both ways, large and small. Some goods are harder to come by than they once were. Cloth is expensive. Families are learning to do without things they once purchased from England. Women have become skilled with making do and mending. We mend clothes instead of replacing it. We save every scrap of fabric. We preserve every bit of food that we can. And then there's another concern. The men spend more time away from home. There are meetings, militia musters, and news to discuss. Every week seems to bring another rider along the King's Highway carrying reports from elsewhere in the colonies. When the men are gone, the work does not disappear. The hay must still be cut, the garden must still be tended, the children must still be fed. And all while, we wonder whether the troubles we hear about in Boston and New York may someday reach our valley. I do not know what the future holds. None of us do. But I know the people of this valley. We are hardworking people. We are determined people. And whatever lies ahead, we will meet it as we always have. With hard work, with faith, and with one another. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we continue, members of the Orikinany Battle Chapter of the Sons of the American Revolution will present a 3-shot musket volley. The volley will be loud, so if you'd like to move farther away or cover your ears, especially for young children, now would be a good time to do so.
Fire!